Hey, folks, welcome to the Catholic Coaching Podcast. We got a treat today. We got a guest. Maura Eckels is her name. She's a recent Purgative Way graduate, and she also is the student success coach over at Christendom College. Maura, welcome.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Maura, can you tell us about yourself and, just briefly what led you to where you are right now as a student success coach?
Is that right? We were talking about this before, and it was just like, Erin started kicking me under the table. She's like, save it for the interview. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, can you say all of it again now that everybody's listening? The whole story?
Yeah. So I'm Maura. So I'm a 2018 graduate of Franciscan University of Steubenville. Woohoo! Yep. Great school. So at Franciscan, I studied theology as my major, human life studies as my minor. And what that is in a nutshell is just a political pro-life, pro-family studies. So we really were able to dive into culture of life, culture of death, like history of marriage, family. And it was awesome. So human life studies as a minor. And then I was also in Franciscan's really unique program, which is the Center for Leadership program. And that is a separate program outside of your major and any minor that you're in. And what it goes through, it's like a weekly cohort. So actually similar to Purgative Way in that regard. Mm-hmm. And you learn effective lifelong Christian leadership skills in your respective vocations and occupations. So it was a really awesome program to be in, because I was with a cohort of students, all from different disciplines, all from different backgrounds. And we were selected to be a part of this program based off of our initial interviews coming into the college. So yeah, just learning how to be a leader within your discipline of study, within the capital V vocation, right, that the Lord is going to call you to, and just on campus. So yeah, so that's what I studied.
Was there also, I'm interrupting you, but now were you also like getting paired up with other like Catholic leaders in the area? I vaguely remember getting a phone call from Steubenville and them describing this new program and being like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing that they're doing this.
Sure. So they may be doing that now. I know it is definitely changed since I've been enrolled. At the time, the leaders that we were mentored by were our professors of the program. So Mr. Ronald McNamara, who runs it, as well as Dave Schmeezing. So they were the two primarily in charge at the time, but we did go into like DC as an example and meet different leaders in different fields as well. So we had like a hands-on experience of what Christian leadership looks like in the world too.
So everything that you're describing to me, I mean, it reminds me of my experience at Steubenville as well. I studied theology, and it was like, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to be a theologian? Am I going to be the next Scott Hahn? Well, no, that's a big fat no. Like, what else do I do with this? Right? Do I just become a youth minister like everybody else, or a theology teacher? And everything that you just described really tells me like it's a great resume to be a coach, a success coach. So I'm curious to anyone out there who might be listening for the first time. Our Purgative Way program that Maura and all of us keep talking about is our coach training program, our Catholic coach training program. But Maura, what finally made you make the investment in that? Because I mean, from like reading your resume on paper, you'd be like, you don't need any other training. Like this is probably good, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah. So honestly, okay. So I would not have been interested in doing Purgative Way had I not been in my current role now at Christendom. So after I left Franciscan, I had this desire within me to really take what I had received in my education and give it back to other people, namely young adults, who I have a particular love for, right? And so I ended up public speaking in San Francisco to middle school through college age students on human dignity, sexual integrity, social media, through a Catholic worldview, right? Like sharing the teachings of JP2 and all that good stuff. And through that experience and through my love of communications and public speaking and about these topics that I studied and love and are very much a part of me, I realized that I have this heart for guiding, informing, and mentoring others that are younger than me toward truth and toward God, namely, who is truth himself. So from that mission year of public speaking, I entered into this role with Christendom shortly after as their academic success coach. So that's my formal title. And I'm a part of the student support services subunit of the enrollment department. So our little mini department, it's two of us. So it's me and our director of student support services named Mary Beth Kelly. She's awesome. The two of us, our job is to retain students from an academic standpoint. So, enrollment gets them in the door, right? Gets them to come to Christendom, and then we keep them here, ideally. So through this role, and I would obviously love to share more about what I do with you guys, but through this role, this is the end of my third year with Christendom. And this, before doing Purgative Way, I really had this desire to have a specific skill set in something related to my job. Now, at the time, I was like, maybe I do Divine Mercy University's master's in clinical mental health counseling, which was of great interest to me. It still is of great interest to me, and it's right down the road for me here in Virginia. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, maybe I do like Liberty University's human services counseling, because those two things, right? I'm like, those will be a practical application of a skill that I can use in my role. But the time commitment, right? That would have been years of studying. The money, the financial commitment would be, it would be big, right? That would be a huge commitment. And I wanted a skill set, a training, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a trade, I guess, that I could use now in my job. And so I came across Purgative Way actually through Megan Mohan, who you guys just interviewed. So Megan and I are good friends. I'd like to think so. Hopefully she feels the same. And
she feels the same way.
Yeah. And she and I are like, I feel like we're like twin souls, honestly, just like two peas in a pod. But she was talking to me about like Metanoid Catholic, and I'm like, dude, what is this? And she was just sharing like bits and pieces of it with me through Marco Polo, which is our primary form of communication together. And she got to the point where she's like, Maura, I really think you should look into it. And I kind of thought about it a little bit, but it wasn't until I actually looked through the Purgative Way brochure, like the intro brochure of like, what is this program? What does it do? That my heart was truly set on fire. I'm reading it and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is the specific training that I'm looking for that will give me the coaching of the whole person through a Catholic worldview, right? Because at Christendom, in my role, the funny thing is that, I'm called the academic success coach, yet I find that in like 70 to 80% of my student meetings, I am coaching on something other than academics, right? So it's a student's spiritual life, their social life, personal life, mental health, whatever it is, there's something being discussed that directly applies to and influences their academic success, but is not necessarily strictly academic in of itself, right? So it's like, okay, this is interesting. Like, all right, I came into this role and I'm like trained on how to coach in these specific academic topics and areas. And students have been, and I love this, have been coming to me with things other than academics, in addition to academics.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is really cool. This is a really great privilege to receive the other and to be entrusted with their heart in this way. And I want to make sure that I'm not messing it up. Right. So yeah, I really just, I wanted to eat like a practical training. I looked at my friends who are nurses or work in engineering, and they have like a very specific skill set, right? Like they learn a model of doing things for their job. And I was like, I feel like I didn't receive that specifically in my liberal arts undergrad education. So I wanted to have something in addition that would help. Yeah.
That is such an awesome answer. I mean, the reason why it's an awesome answer is because that is actually one of our goals. Similarly, I studied theology and minor in mental health. And I was like, I just want to help people. I want to evangelize. I want to guide people, coach people. I didn't have the words for it at that point, but it was, that was it. And what we like to do is take all of those abstract, the philosophies, all of it, and try to make it into a method, a trade, if you will, like a skill set. And
there's something I love too, the fact that like you're working at one of these Newman schools, and these Cardinal Newman Society schools, where Cardinal Newman Society is really, it's an organization that they're a watchdog for Catholic colleges and Catholic universities. And they've got their list of these schools that are authentically Catholic, because a lot of them have gone quite wayward. And here you're at one of these Cardinal Newman schools, Franciscan's one of these schools. We got Ave Maria University right in our backyard here. And they're really seeking to maintain that integrity of really educating the whole person, informing the whole person. And I look at this and I wonder, I'm not in one of these institutions. I know what my college experience was like. I did not go to one of these Newman schools, but like returning to this education of just human formation. What does it mean to be human? And what does it mean to think about your thinking and use our intellect? These things, these faculties that we have that distinguish us from the animals. What does it mean to really not only use these things, but to thrive in these things and use them properly? Because so much discord and pain happens, and I'm sure you see it in your students. I certainly saw it when I was in the Marine Corps and I'd be counseling my Marines. So much discord happens when they're not using that faculty properly, or they don't even know that it's there. They don't even understand it's part of their God-given dignity. And so how has this helped you to enter into that human formator role? Because I think it's so fascinating. Here you are, you're saying you're not really an academic success coach. You're a human success coach. You're a student success coach.
Yes. So yes, that's a great question. So I would say, just through the lessons, in Purgative Way, right? But most importantly, through the coaching drills, and learning which questions to ask to really draw the information out of someone to help them, I say it in academic coaching, come to problem and solution ownership, right? So to really, in the process of thinking about your thinking, like I've done this in the drills through Purgative Way, like you externally process and you're like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. Now let me work through this, right? So I found that the program specifically, through the questions that we've learned through the model, is what's really been extremely effective in my meetings. Like I have noticed, like a student will come in and they're like, they start sharing with me what they want coaching on. And as we're talking, there are times when I hear the same thought repeated, right? And then it dawns on me, Maura, why don't you practice? Why don't you practice the coaching model right now that you're learning in Purgative Way? And I will do it without telling them that I'm doing it, right? And 9 times out of 10, that student walks away with just completely transformed by the meeting. And I'm like, what just happened? And then I have received vocal feedback from students that are like, that was really helpful. Whatever you just did was actually really helpful. And I didn't even know that I was thinking this way. I didn't even know that this was my issue, right? So in terms of just addressing the whole person, learning about mindset coaching from a Catholic worldview, which Metanoia Catholic does, right? It's not secular, humanistic life coaching. Taking those principles and applying it through the model in the coaching sessions is what I've found to be specifically really, really formative. Also, too, I will say that just by going through Purgative Way and doing self-coaching and being coached. So be, which is awesome. I have this greater clarity of how to receive the person before me, right? So I was thinking about this today, actually, how, how like we don't teach a subject, we teach a person. I think so too in coaching, right? Like I'm not teaching a way of thinking. I'm not coaching a certain way of thinking. I'm coaching a person who's individual and unique before me. And something that my role at Christendom, which has been enhanced by the Purgative Way program, something that's happened is I've learned how to be a spiritual mother and how to receive the other before me in a way that always makes the person, as best I can, feel loved and heard when they leave, right? So my objective in my coaching sessions is no longer, did I achieve the outcome I was hoping for? Did I achieve the outcome that seems sufficient and that gives me the reassurance that I'm doing my job well? Rather, it's, did this student leave my office feeling loved and feeling as though I'm a stable force here, present to them, available to them, and willing and able to receive them wherever they are, right? And so shifting my mindset in that, which I didn't realize I wanted to do or needed to do until going through coaching through Purgative Way myself, shifting my mindset toward that has been transformative. Like I'm finding like relationship building at the college with students to be going through the roof. Students are coming to me for relationship issues, for, personal things, for academics or whatever it is. And of course, I can, there is a limit to what I can do, right? So if it's something with like mental health counseling, I refer them out to our Catholic counseling services. If it's career coaching, I refer them to our director of career services, Kristen Stevens, right? If it's spiritual direction, Father Pollard, our chaplain on campus. So there are certain things that I, of course, have boundaries with and that I do not enter into because that's not my realm of expertise. However, it's just truly a really cool experience to be needed as a spiritual mom. And like, and I can't tell you like how fulfilling my job has become when I have these students sit before me and they are entrusting this information about themselves and their lives to me with this hope and expectation that like whatever I'm going to share with them in that moment is going to help them. And that is just like, it's just really rewarding. It's really cool. So I often joke with people that when I describe my role, like, yes, my title is academic success coach, but I think the more fitting title is student success coach, right? And then also spiritual mother, mentor, guidance counselor, like spiritual direction, like kind of like school social worker, kind of all wrapped in one, right? Yeah, so it's, yes, sorry, that was a very long-winded answer to your question.
It was awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Dug it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think, going off of that, you kind of encapsulated it in that answer, but I'm just curious, what was like a very impactful lesson for you from this course, from even just going through this course? You kind of said that. So for the sake of, to avoid redundancy, but is there like a specific thing that you learned that you were like, okay, this changes a lot for me? It might just be repetitive.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, it was through a drill. So one of the drill sessions that we had, I was being coached. I think I was going through a difficult situation with someone. And it was, I was just harboring like a lot of anger and bitterness in my heart. And as I was being coached by one of my peers in the course, and I'm hearing myself externally process and really just work through the circumstance and the thought and how I'm feeling and showing up and all of that, I was able to come through the coaching of this person, I was able to come to the resolution that I actually believed, right? That, and this is what it was. My new thought of this particular situation was, forgive him, Lord, for he knows not what he does.
Mm.
And I was able to think this and actually like really believe it too, right? Like not just say, I'm going to take this thought and like put a Band-Aid over what I'm actually thinking. But through being drilled, I came to this, and the interior freedom that I experienced from that was shocking to me because I didn't expect it. And it completely changed my behavior and thought and trajectory towards this person and situation going forward. And from this, I learned a really important lesson, a really important lesson through Purgative Way that was not even a part of the lesson plan. And that is that we are always arriving. Like we're always arriving. We're always being formed. We will never become or arrive at the person that we desire to be, that we're created to be this side of heaven. So, I think my initial anticipation with Purgative Way was, by doing this program, by learning how to coach well, I will become, this person who is completely transformed by the renewal of their mind, who doesn't have any thoughts that need to be worked through anymore, that like I've made it, I'm there. And just this one experience of being coached by a peer and coming to this interior freedom of this certain circumstance in my life, it was this freeing and humbling reminder to me that no, Maura, like there will always be something else that needs to be coached through, which just reinforced for me the absolute necessity for Catholic mindset coaches. I was like, okay, all right, I get it, right? And so this abandonment of perfectionism, right? This abandonment of like achieving success in coaching itself, right? And I didn't expect to learn that personally through the course, right? It certainly wasn't necessarily a lesson plan that was typed out. So yeah.
Yeah, that's such a one of the things that is amazing about getting coached as a coach is it allows you to show up as a better coach. Like I think that this metanoia moment for you of not having to be a perfectionist, I imagine after that, this is typically what happens with me, but maybe you tell me if it happened with you too. All of a sudden, these students are showing up in your office and they are having a very similar struggle. And now suddenly it's just like you have removed the beam, by God's grace from your own eye, and you can see clearly now, and you can approach it with just such a tenderness. And when you think of like, I love how that scripture doesn't just say that you just leave the splinter in the other person's eye. It's just like, no, you do it so you can see clearly now to remove the splinter from your brother's eye, and how gentle you can be, and just how gentle. Imagine like having to remove a splinter of somebody's eye, and how gentle you would need to be. And now it equips you, having gone through that metanoia, that moment. And there's a healing that's accompanying that too, right? It's not just a change in your mind. There's an actual healing that's a part of that conversion taking place. And you get to bring that, right? And Christ is in you in that moment now that you get to bring also to that person, that's the best part.
It really is an incredible privilege to have that front row seat to what's happening. And you get coached. I mean, that's the coolest thing. When you get out of the way of the Holy Spirit, like you get coached too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like my students, honestly, like I feel like I've received more from them than I have even given to them, right? And yeah, just to touch on what you said, Matt, like this whole past week specifically, it's happened throughout my time at Christendom, but specifically this past week, I prayed to the Holy Spirit and I said, because I do get kind of sad when like my office is empty and like students aren't showing up. I'm like, no, like I need like social interaction, like send them my way, Lord. So I prayed to the Holy Spirit and I was like, God, please send me students whom I can help in a unique way. Like I've experienced maybe something similar that they're going through. And I had 2 students this week in particular, like their situations to a T, I went through myself in college. And I was like, okay, I get it now. Like I can see now in this moment, like why you had me go through what I did, Lord, right? And even if it's just to be able to help this one person before me, then that's enough. Like then that's I will have accepted like all that suffering, all like anything I went through to be able to sit before this person and coach them and love them as best I can. And yeah, you're right, Aaron. Like it's such a privilege. And I often struggle with feeling ill-equipped. Like I will sit before a student and, like I know, the Lord doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called, but I will sit before a student and be like, I don't know what to say right now. But I've come to realize that is like the best place to be, because it's the humility before the Lord to say, I don't need to know what to say right now. Like, Holy Spirit, come, give me the words. Like, you are the perfect life coach. You are the perfect Catholic mindset coach. You're the perfect counselor, right? And so, Jesus, I trust in you. Like, Holy Spirit, come. And so I will pray with students too in my office if they're open to it. And it's funny, like I actually it's pretty wild too, because right at the end of today, my last student meeting of the day, and I asked the student if I could share this actually, and they were like, yeah, of course. So at the end of the meeting today, the student's talking with me, and it's midterms season right now. Okay, so people are freaking out, and spring break is right around the corner, and like exams and the heightened stress just brings everything to the surface. Okay, so this one student's in my office, and just sharing with me what's on their heart. And I kid you not, and by the way, they have no idea that I did Purgative Way. None of that. They're like, yeah, so for Lent, my friend got me this like metanoia Catholic journal, and I've been going through it, and like, Miss Eckels, oh my goodness, it's like actually really helpful. Can I like tell you about it? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you just say to me? And I'm like,
are like, what did
yeah.
you just say to me? Tell us more.
So, that is literally the first time ever in my history at Christendom that a student has told me that they have the journal. And I'm like, so I was like, oh my gosh, are you doing like the academy? Or like, I asked all these questions, and they're like, no, I'm just doing this journal. And I'm like, divine providence, like, what are the odds? Like, literally, what are the odds that this is happening the same day I'm, doing this with you guys? So
wow,
yeah,
that's
so that was
rad.
just really cool. And the fact that she like felt inclined to share that with me as well was just further indication of like, I was like, all right, yeah, okay, God, like confirmation right there. And also just students need this, right? Like young adults, college students, they need this. What I found to be really quite interesting, specifically in success coaching, and I thought about this today, and I wanted to share it with you guys today, is the image of Martha and Mary. Is what I found, the problem that college students are facing in particular, especially, in their generation now. I guess maybe I'm a part of that. I don't know if I'm part of that. Anyway, part of the generation, is this heightened pursuit of worldly success. And it's kind of funny because my title is success coach, right? So my job essentially is to help you achieve success. And often I am like, the Lord is putting the image of Martha and Mary on my heart, precisely because that scripture is the perfect image of showing that work and rest are equally revered, right? And that here are these two goods, things that we're called to in this life. We're called to work, we're called to rest, right? And the Lord is saying to Martha, like, you are busy with many things. And I'm saying to my students, you are busy with many things, right? And he looks at Mary and says, but Mary's chosen the better part, right? And it's not gonna be taken from her. And so what I'm finding is this really delicate balance between helping my student achieve success, right, academically, and in all areas of their life, to retain them at Christendom, for them to flourish and thrive going forward into their vocation, right, to restore all things in Christ. I'm finding that there's a delicate balance between doing that and also coaching them out of this anti-Catholic mindset that I must pursue and produce and become and achieve. And success is my end. And that I need to get a certain GPA to then get a certain career, to then make a certain amount of money, because that is why I'm here. And it's not why we're here. Right. And so often, like, that image of Martha and Mary comes to mind, and just reminding myself included, but reminding my students that the better portion is receiving from the Lord and sitting before the Lord. You know, like, if I have kids that they're like, yeah, I'm doing 5 clubs and I'm in like 7 classes and doing all the things, but they are not making prayer a priority in their life. That's a problem, right? And same for me. Like, if I'm going to work and I'm going to the gym and I'm doing all these things, and yet I'm not making prayer a priority, like, that's a problem. So just thinking of that scripture, and then also what Saint Teresa of Calcutta says, I often bring up in my meetings, is that God has not called me to be successful, but to be faithful. And if we are faithful in the vocation that is before us, and for my job right now, my students, their vocation is to be a student, right? If we're faithful to that, then we will be successful, right? But it's not necessarily going to look like the success that the world tells us it's supposed to be. And I think same thing with Catholic coaching, right? The success that we're coaching for is beatitude. Like, it's the end for which we're created. It's eternal happiness. And so
there's almost freedom in knowing that there is an end in what it is. One thing that came to mind while you were talking, Maura, and this is funny because it's kind of like the Martha Mary scripture that you were talking about, but it's almost like, if we were to apply that to Catholic coaching and say, because like what we were just talking about, how when the Holy Spirit comes in and takes over, it's like the best part. You're like, oh, it's about ready to get real good right now because I don't have anything to give to you. But also, where is the place for a method? The method that you learn in Purgative Way? Because there is a method to this coaching, but then the method, like, where's, for you personally, where is the place, like the Holy Spirit and then the method? Because there's a lot of people out there who'd be like, all I have to do is just get out of the way of the Holy Spirit, which 100% works. You might not be coaching them. You might just be praying with them. And there's a difference between the two. So let me know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yes. So yes. Okay. So if I am in a meeting with a student and they are sharing what they need coaching on, and it's actually only recently that I started asking, what would you like coaching on today? Before then, it was them just coming in and, and laying it all out there. So I find now that when they're sharing, I am looking for, as the Purgative Way model has taught us, okay, what is the circumstance going on here? And what is this student thinking around this circumstance, right? And then going through it objectively. Okay, then from that, the feeling, the action, the result. So often when I'm finding that, I really I need the Lord's guidance, it's because the student is going in many different directions, right? And which often happens because they're sharing about, this is my academic life, this is my social life, this is which they're welcome to do and I want them to do, right? And so it's finding, okay, what is the most critical thing that we need to focus on right now? Because we have usually 30 minutes to an hour, right? In our sessions together, sometimes more, sometimes less. And so having that balance between, okay, the model is pretty straightforward, right? If even if you can't recall oh man, what were all the questions that I am like supposed to ask for that one section of the model? It's like CTFAR. I remember as Connecticut FAR, because I'm from Connecticut and it's far away from me, right? So like you can recall the model and you know that, okay, even if I get lost and I need the Holy Spirit's help, I at least know that I can go back to one of these points and draw something from it, right? So yeah, like I don't think we're called to just like step out into the abyss like ill-equipped, right? So it's like, okay, we have this coaching model, it works, right? And so sometimes what I will do is just like on my notepad in my office, I will just write out the model letters. And then as the student's talking, kind of like keep notes, which I do anyway, whether or not I am using this model within my coaching, right? Keep notes so that as the student's talking, and if I feel like I don't have the words, I don't know where to go, I can reference down to the page. I can be praying to the Holy Spirit as they talk. Yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Yeah, no.
Well, but
that's similar to what I do. It's like you can always go back to it. You know, you can always go if you're kind of lost. There's some kind of reason involved.
Yeah, and there's structure too. And in some ways, I see it very similar to like mental prayer, right? Where you start off perhaps with a vocal prayer. It's very structured, right? Like the rosary is a very structured vocal prayer, right? But there's also this meditative element of it where you can kind of just still meditate, but still there's some structure that's there. But you know, even the saints will say, like, if all of a sudden you start to enter into deep contemplation, which is really like the Holy Spirit is taking over, and you're on a conscious cognitive level, you're really kind of starting to, you know, decrease while the Lord increases, right? You don't dive back into the structure of those things. No, you're there. Like your prayer has accomplished that goal. In the same way, there have been times where we're coaching and like you start by using that model, and then you start going into some of the other skills of like adjudicating a thought or assessing the moral weight of the thought and kind of bringing in a little bit more of those, like jump-starting those faculties of reason. But when the Holy Spirit shows up and starts to really take over, and you have kind of that aha moment, it's almost time to stop talking, right?
Yeah,
or
totally.
even stop asking questions. Just be like, rest in that, right? What he just delivered to you, just rest in that, rest in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Maura, I'm curious, what would you say to somebody who is maybe in the same situation as you, maybe works at one of these Newman schools, as somebody who helps with the student?
Finds their 80% talking about student life, 20% on academics.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who might be like on the fence about possibly, or they're thinking about joining the Purgative Way? What would you say to them?
Yeah. I would say I've been there. Number one, I have been there. It's an investment, right? So here's the thing, like if it's a matter of, oh, I don't think I have the time, that's a poor reason, because it is, this program I think is like tailor-made for people who are working professionals. It is not a huge time commitment. I mean, you're looking at minimum like 3 hours a week, if that.
It's an executive program.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a time standpoint, like anybody has 3 hours a week, right? And you can cut something out to fit that in. The reason why I say that is because I think initially I was like, oh, I don't have the time, I'm so busy. Well, I'm busy because I make myself busy, right? If it's a matter of finances, like, yeah, I get that, right? And here's the thing. I think it's really just, okay, what are your reasons for joining? Like, what would be the benefit? Like writing this down, what would be the benefit to doing this program? How would this help you professionally, personally? And weighing that against, you know, what thoughts are you having or what fears do you have right now that are keeping you in the, I don't think I'm going to do it. Okay. So yeah, so it's a decision that you make from being well formed about what the program is. So like do your research, go like look up Metanoia Catholic, read the brochure, talk to other people who've gone through the program, ask all of your questions, right? Speak to Matt and Aaron. I mean, Aaron, you spoke with me for like an hour when I was asking you all the things before I joined. yeah, like really gather the data, right? Gather your information, and then pray and make a decision, and the Lord will bless your decision, right? And here's the thing, like, it's like you will reap what you sow. And if it's a financial worry, that's understandable. But also, like, money comes and money goes, and it's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in those that you're going to serve. It's an investment in your family life, and if you're in the priesthood, if you are religious. I mean, it can only help you in all of these areas. Also too, just on a practical note, I mean, for me personally, working at Christendom, a really beautiful benefit of our college is that they provide tuition assistance for employees, case by case basis, but it's for tuition assistance for programs that are related to one specific role at the college. So for me, that looks like Metanoia in the Purgative Way program, or something like counseling, higher ed, etc. So I would totally encourage, if anyone of you was listening and works at a Catholic Newman school, or just a college in general, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be Catholic, to seek out what are those employee benefits, and to see if this would be covered under tuition assistance. That's something I definitely, I would encourage.
I'm curious, just given that we're not like an accredited organization like a Divine Mercy University, right? That has like a body of accreditation that's behind it. So like, how were you presenting this? Like, how did you present this to your, like, to do your due diligence?
Very
and I'm sure
carefully.
like they were, like, Christendom was doing their due diligence here, as well as like kind of making sure, like, oh yeah, this fits. And yeah, they are Catholic, authentically Catholic. And yeah, let's do it.
I think divine providence, just Holy Spirit, literally all I did was I printed out the brochure. I like highlighted sections of it. And because it was between this, and I was looking at the, it's a
Something much
certificate
more
program. Actually, I think it might've been, it was Liberty University's certificate in pastoral counseling. So I was looking at that and this, because I was like, I'm going to do a certificate before, like, I think about masters, because I was like, I don't want to do masters right now, if at all. And so it's between the two, and I just, I showed the program. I just literally talked about it with our director of student support services, Mary Beth, and she was like, yeah, this seems great. Like, this seems like it would only benefit our students. And so she advocated for me, and it's really simple. Like, at least at Christendom, it's if your boss approves of the training, the program that you want to do, then it goes through and you get the tuition assistance. I also did, before this, I did an academic success coach training certificate through the National Tutoring Association. So I did that, and same thing with Christendom. So yeah, they really invest in their employees, and they want you, because it's only can be a benefit to the school. So
Sure.
Yeah, to say I have no idea if that would fly with other Newman Catholic colleges, but it somehow did with me. So
Yay. Well, that's so helpful for people to know that possibly they could have that option. I want one final question to ask you, because my dream is to at least get college students doing the journal. Nothing else, just doing the journal. I journaled all through college when I went to Franciscan. That's really where I kind of developed that discipline. And it was really free form. And so funny, the other night was like months ago, I found one of my old journals and I started reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody needs to coach this girl. This is like, I mean, it was,
oh yeah.
It was a mess. It was totally fine. I was getting my thoughts out.
Your diary.
But it was like embarrassing to read. Matt was like, read it to me. I'm like, no way. And so anyway, what are your thoughts about that? Working with college students
Having thoughts.
No, and doing the journal.
That's the C.
Actually having a guided journal that actually walks them through something, so they're not like repetitively writing the same thing over and over and over again, which is what I was
sitting
doing.
in their contamination story.
Right.
Yeah. So are you mean like having like some kind of like group or process at the college to go through the journal, or what are you thinking? Yeah, I mean, I think it would be awesome. I definitely would love to do something like that at Christendom. So I used to, when my first year at Christendom, I did like a women's formation book study. So we read like Men, Women, Mystery of Love by Edward Sri. That had a great student outcome. Like I just had them over my house, and like we had a meal, and yeah, so women at Christendom, the men too, right? All the students, they
Men don't journal.
They don't journal. No,
This guy.
there's this desire for deeper formation. So, and that's, and the Metanoia Journal does that, right? And it does it in a specific way through self-coaching. But yeah, I definitely could see that being. That's actually a really good idea. I should probably do that for the fall.
Nice plant, Erin.
That was it. I
Yeah.
was just planting it in
She
your
was
head.
like, set, spike, Maura.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, I really like that idea. Yeah. Because like we have at Christendom, we have, it's called At the Well, and it's like women's formation. They have one for men as well. It's women formation nights where like speakers come, and I've been able to talk at them on like humility's role and loving yourself well as the art of loss. And so like students do gravitate towards those things. So I mean, gosh, yeah, I think having some kind of small group or small groups to go through the journal would be helpful, would be great. Yeah.
I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. No, I'm kidding. Finally, Maura, what is your favorite topic to coach somebody on?
Whoa. Oh man.
Here comes the
man.
niche.
I know. That's my sneaky way to ask.
No
your
pressure.
Okay. Yeah, that's hard to answer, because if I'm being honest, I don't feel like I've yet found my specific niche. Is it niche? Whatever. But
Foyer?
Foyer. We don't know. Yes.
But honestly, actually, okay, the theme that I'm finding from my student meetings that whenever it comes, I'm like, I really love coaching on this, is coaching on embracing uncertainty.
Ooh. So good.
And here's why. Okay. So I'll be transparent here. So, okay. Yeah. When I was in college, it was such a time of just uncertainty, instability, hormones, the whole thing, right? And it's like, all right, I'm here for 4 years. What am I doing next? Where am I going to go? Am I going to make it? Am I going to get the grades? Am I going to get the accolades? Am I going to get the internship? Like the whole thing, right? And I did this, and so many students, I see it every day. We tack on literally all of the things till you have no space to even think about your own thinking, and intentionally so, right? We want to avoid it's suffering avoidance is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I did this in college, and it was my way of alleviating the anxiety that I felt from uncertainty. So senior year, and this comes full circle, I promise. Senior year, spring semester. So going to the spring semester, I had just finished, I think it was like 18 credits. I had 3 theses. So I had like a theology thesis, a human life studies, and a capstone project for leadership program. And I was working an internship at the Catechetical Institute, and I was doing all these things, right? And so spring semester was like my breeze semester. I was like, finally, I have like less classes. I can focus on, career development and this and that. But interestingly enough, what happened was suddenly all the things that kept me distracted and busy and just distracted and busy from my interior reality were stripped from me. So spring semester comes, and and I had like a full-on mental breakdown my spring semester of college. And what I came to find was a really severe episode of obsessive compulsive disorder, which in of itself is called the doubting disease, because it's an inability to embrace uncertainty at its root.
Wow.
That's what it is. Yeah. So, and there's different types of it and all of that. And the gift that this illness, which I still manage it to this day, was absolutely terrifying at the time. It totally rocked my world. But what I found now, what, 4 years later, how long have I been out of school? 4 years later, I feel like I'm so much older than I am. The gift that I've found is that OCD forced me to embrace uncertainty in a way that we all have to eventually, even if it's on our deathbed, right? In a way that was unique, right? So it forced me to really come face to face with thoughts that scared me. And they scared me because they were uncertain, right? And so going through the therapy for that and learning to now even coach myself through it too, right? And it's I am, praise God, like healed, like very much so. But still, like, it still comes and goes. And I found that my absolute favorite thing to coach on with students now is when they come to me and they're anxious because they're uncertain. They're uncertain about their future. They're uncertain about this relationship. They're uncertain about my dad, my parent is suffering with COVID, like, am I going to lose them? They're uncertain about the state of the world. I mean, look at Ukraine right now, right? Like they're uncertain about, does God love me? Like, is he really merciful? Am I really going to go to heaven? Right? The scrupulosity, like all of these things that I'm like, yep, been there, done that, still doing it. Right. And so embracing uncertainty has been a really interesting thing to coach on. And it's been absolutely a personal surrender and trust in a God that's good, because I have to do it every day. I have to myself face, just the uncertainties that are all around us. And so I find that I am most fulfilled and feel like I've actually contributed something to my day, like to the world, when I have been able to meet a student where they are in that uncertainty and provide some stable ground, and to let them know, like, it's okay. It is okay. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. And you can entrust it to a loving Father who already knows, right? Who was and is to come. And that's it. So, yeah.
That's such a beautiful example of how we do coach out of our own story and out of our own wounds. And I mean, really, it's the glorified Christ still having his wounds, like heaven shining through his wounds. Like, why did he still have his wounds?
Yeah, you
right?
think of the fruit of Thomas. Yeah, actually, like, what's the purpose of this glorified wound? It actually brings people to conversion, right? And there's an element of just inviting somebody into that wound, not this wound that's festering because you've never brought it to the Lord. But there's light that's coming from that wound. The Lord has made his home, has pitched a tent, right? Has made his dwelling place with the human race, and they can encounter the Lord in that place.
And another thing that I do like about coaching in general, or just the type of coaching that we do, because I remember experiencing this myself when I was being coached on my fear of emotions. And like how emotions are actually morally neutral, and even the catechism says that.
Right.
So like unless there's like a couple that was like malice or whatever, like, but I would say that's more of a vice. But also to have just that thought about emotions, right? Where it's like, this is neutral. This doesn't have to be so scary.
Right.
And like, what are you making that mean that you're so afraid of uncertainty? Do you think you're the only one? Like, do you think we all love uncertainty? Probably not, right? It's uncomfortable for everyone. So it's kind of like this neutralizing of emotions.
But then also it's like, what is amazing about uncertainty too?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what I've talked to a lot of men where it's like they have these father wounds. And it's like, okay, what's the great gift behind your father's imperfections? And I mean, think about like, if we had the perfect father here on earth, we'd have no reason to seek out our heavenly father, right?
Absolutely.
It's in that brokenness. In the same way, like if all that certainty, if we have certainty about tomorrow, then why do we even need God? And how sad is that, right?
Yep.
There's no faith, right? And like a requirement for faith is to be able to put your trust in things that have not yet been revealed, right? We're walking by faith, not by sight here. And so therein, it's just all that through that invitation, that stepping out in faith, you start to experience, which you can certainly see it in yourself. I can see just as you're telling this, you're a witness to this. And in some ways, people can borrow your own experience by just kind of mirror neurons in their bodies, right? As they're like firing as you're telling your story, that they get to start to experience that as well. And
what hope?
It's a witness, not a teacher.
Yeah, it's a witness to hope. Like there is another side of this. Even just saying those words as a coach, like, guys, there's another side to this. I promise you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You are amazing. Like you are just a firecracker.
All you Newman schools. It's in my exercise theory right now to like have a professionally trained Catholic coach in all these Newman schools. I just desire to see more and more Eckels out there. And Aaron and I knew this from the beginning is when we started to receive just how the amazing impact of applying these exercises to our lives. Is like, we knew that we can't coach them all. And that this was something that we just wish we had when we were in that position of influence and we were youth ministers or we were doing young adult ministry, and just those skills, there's something that brings it to completion. And I know that right now there are forces at the college level where most Catholics fall away from their faith. There are forces that are really working against them. It's a season of their life where more than learning things, you need to learn how to think for yourself. And so the question is, how are we forming people in that human formation to think for themselves right now? And I know we want to be a part of that solution.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Like, I mean, I'm finding at Christendom and all these other Newman schools, Franciscan is like this too, where there's a place for like spiritual direction. There's a place for Catholic counseling. There is, student life. There's academic services and coaching and like then career coaching, but there isn't, at least I found yet, a specific like little department and or just role available for either Catholic coaching in general or Catholic mindset coaching as, Purgative Way.
Yeah.
And I mean, guys, like the only reason I like made it to the other end at Franciscan was I like personally sought out my own mentors, like the families, the professors, the elders of the community, so to speak, who like for the first time actually revealed to me what it is to be human and to love and receive love and Catholic family life and marriage. And I'm like, wow, it actually exists, right? And I wouldn't have known that had I not like sought these people out who completely changed my life. Like oh my goodness, like I can't even tell you the amount of families and professors in the community to this day whom I'm like, that person absolutely was this key component on my trajectory of life to lead me where I am now and to the person I am now. And that needs to be like a concrete role at these colleges. So like my hope, I should say, and desire is that even at Christendom, God willing, we'll see, is that we could have, in addition to academic success coaching, in addition to career coaching, in addition to accommodation services, that we could have specifically a place for Catholic coaching as it pertains to the needs of college students. or Catholic mindset coaching, right? So I think it'd be awesome. I think all the schools need to step up their game, because let me tell you, the second that a Catholic college, especially a Newman Catholic College, gets this role as part of their department, it's going to up the ante in competition for all the other schools. Parents are going to want to send their kids to a school where they know that there is a built-in mentor and guide and formator there for them. And so, yeah, I'm
Lots
right
of
there
them.
with you. Yeah.
Not just one.
Yeah.
Multiply them.
Many.
Like
Yes.
Wet Mogwai. Let's get them out there.
Yeah.
I
so
love
good.
I love that vision. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're
Let's
all going to be on the team together.
Yes. Yeah.
And I want to keep in touch more and like understand also how we can support you for this. And so it's just like putting out that content. And what I love is that our coaches like are creating their own content as well.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so in these specific niche areas, right? But like, what's the way that we can always support, right? And I think our heartbeat is we always want to be that support for the coaches that are doing the niche work, right? I'm never going to be in a position where I can be the niche coach for college students. It's just not what I've been called into in my state in life. It's not, but I know Aaron and I love to be those coaches for the other Catholic coaches that are out there and supporting them and supporting their minds and their own self-coaching efforts. And we love being students of it ourselves too. It's like, it lights us on fire. So, and I love being married to my wife here.
Yeah.
And being able to share that with her.
Pretty good too.
Thanks.
Yeah. I love it.
Wink.
Maura. Awesome. It was so awesome talking to you. We need to continue this conversation. And I know that this was helpful to people. So thank you for sharing your story with us and being just really vulnerable and sharing that side of it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much, guys, for having me.
You bet. And folks, if you're curious about Purgative Way, go to CatholicCoaching.com. Click Coach Training up in the top menu bar, and you can learn about our next cohort right now. If you're listening when this airs, we've got a cohort that's starting at the end of March. So registration closes for that on the 18th of March. So shake off your St. Patrick's Day haze and go to CatholicCoaching.com and coach training and check out Purgative Way.
Or you could sign up when you're in your haze too. We're okay
That's
with
right.
that.
We'll take that.
Oh, gosh.
Just don't show up to your drill sessions in your haze.
Yes.
Boundaries.
All right. Thanks, guys.
God
Have a
bless
great
all.
day.
Bye.